to another edition of the Rockin Rewind Podcast. Here's your host, James Poovey and Ray Miranda.
Welcome to another edition of the Rockin Rewind Podcast. James Poovey alongside my co-host Ray Miranda. We're pleased to have a special guest with us tonight, a Rush Superfan, Mr. Bob Barth. Bob, we appreciate you taking the time out tonight to join us, and we're going to have some fun here tonight talking about Rush, and we're going to try to trick you off on a couple of things as it has to do with Rush, and we're going to have a good time tonight, Ray.
Yeah, we are, man. I thank you, Bob, for showing up tonight, man. I appreciate it.
Yeah, I'm delighted to be here.
All right.
Pick my brain a little bit, huh?
Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
This will be fun because we had a Dream Theater guy the last time we were on, and talk about a super fan. But we got another one right here, and next time we get back on, we'll get back to the album reviews and news and all that stuff. But tonight, special treat, the super fan. Bob, Big Bob, as I affectionately call him.
Big Bob. Fantastic. Yeah. Well, Bob, take us back to your first memories of Rush. When did you become a Rush fan? Did you grow up listening to them? Was there somebody that turned you on to them, or maybe an uncle that was playing it? I know for me, my first experience in the hard rock or heavy metal was walking up to my brother's room. I think I was 5 years old in 1980, and they had they were putting Point of Entry on the turntable by Judas Priest.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
and I said, "Oh wow, what is that?" And heading out to the highway came on. I'm like, "Oh my gosh, that's unbelievable!" That was my first. What was your first experience with Rush?
Oh, I can remember when I was a kid. I was probably about 11 years old, and I used to hear Rush Fly By Night on the radio, and just different songs I'd hear on the local radio stations. And then one time I went over to my buddy's house, and he was playing some Rush 2112, and I heard it for the first time, and I was just blown away. I thought, wow, this is Rush. I thought, wow, this band sounds like it's way ahead of its time. And to this day, like Rush 2112 is one of my all-time perennial favorites.
Now, when you first heard the band, sorry, Ray, but when you first heard the band, Bob, I'm curious to know, did you know that it was only a three-piece band, or what you were hearing, you were like,
did you have any?
Are you kidding me?
Did you have any musical inkling at all? What you were, or did you just like the music?
I just liked the music. I knew practically nothing about Rush back then, but then I remember on into the early 80s, I started listening to more Rush, like Permanent Waves and Signals and Moving Pictures. And I'm like, wow, this band Rush is I was just fascinated, I thought, I want to know more about this band. And I grew up and I became a Rush fan for life.
So obviously I know in talking to you that you enjoy other bands, because we've talked about other classic 60s, 70s rock bands. What would you say is your you just said what your favorite song was, I think. But what would you say your favorite album is from Rush?
My favorite album?
Yeah.
Well, my favorite album would have to be 2112, but probably one of my favorite songs by Rush would have to be Xanadu, from the album that came after 2112, A Farewell to Kings. Yeah, okay. Xanadu, that song is one of my all-time favorite Rush songs.
You're familiar with Xanadu, right?
That's quite a lengthy song as well. That's, Rush is typically known as a musician's band. A lot of their songs are long. They're complex. They have a lot of complex music structure to them, as you guys probably are well aware of. And they don't really appeal to everyone. And that's why they struggled getting airplay. They didn't really get a whole lot of airplay on the whole, throughout their entire career. But they have a following that is really loyal, really dedicated. We talk about Dream Theater, same sort of deal. The fans of Rush are true fans, and they will go, they'll walk on glass to go see these guys play.
Yes. Now, go ahead, Bob.
Like that's why I like to call the music of Rush. I call it it's like thinking man's music, and it's Rush is definitely not your top 40 type of band. And back in the 70s when Rush did their first 3 albums, I mean the critics hated them. They their first 3 albums were pretty much commercial flops, but when Rush did their 4th album, 2112, that was the first album that went platinum, and that was the one that really broke them wide open here in the United States and Canada. And
Bob, why do you think they were a flop at first? Do you think it was because they didn't fit the mold? They didn't have the 2.5 minute power ballad that was popular, that was, like you said, is going to be a top 40 radio hit? Why? What do you think that was all about?
Yeah, I guess you could say they just didn't fit into the mold. And the critics hated them, but Rush, they're like, you know what? Screw the critics. We're going to make music the way we want. Even if we're not what you call a top 40 band.
Now, James, speaking along those lines, there is a documentary, and man, I think it's called The Rise of Kings, or actually, Bob, what is the documentary with where they talk to Lifeson when he's like 16 and his dad's busting his balls?
I think I've seen that video. I think it's on the DVD Rush. I'm trying to think of what's the name of that CD. Beyond the Lighted Stage.
Okay, James.
Okay.
For all you kids out there, or Rush fans, or kids who want to become musicians or whatever, there is a clip in this documentary of Alex Lifeson sitting at a table with his family, his mom, his dad, his sisters, his brothers. I don't know how, whoever, and he's like 16, and his dad's, and they're just busting his chops, man. They're like, hey, why this is not worth it. And he's like,
you want to do what with your life?
Yeah, he's like 16, whoever filmed this is a genius, because I saw that and I'm like, man, this is a kid right here. He knows what he wants. And he just, it's fantastic that someone recorded that. And then he was able to put it in this documentary, because it just shows 50 years later however long it's been, what he had to go through and what they had to go through as a band to become successful. And it's a great American success story, from where they came from. It shows where they came from, where they first played. And Bob can probably tell you more about that documentary than me, but
yeah, I have a lot of Rush DVDs in my collection, and I know a lot about the history of Rush. And Alex and Geddy, they pretty much met in high school, like in the 7th grade. And Alex and Geddy, they've been playing together for years and years. And when they did their first record, John Rutsey was the original drummer on their first record. And then he quit, and then they got Neil Peart as their drummer by the second record. And Alex and Geddy, they have a long history together they've been playing together since they were like teenagers.
Yeah.
Do you have any idea, Bob, about what happened with the first drummer of Rush before Peart came onto the scene? Was it?
I guess after Rush did their first record, John Rutsey, he quit because he didn't want to go on tour. He couldn't keep up with relentless touring pace, and I think he was a diabetic too.
Yeah,
I think he had some medical issues. So it's documented on one of the Rush DVDs. They did I saw this little interview that they did with Alex and Geddy, and Alex Lifeson said something like, "Yeah, when Neil Peart, he brought his drums to the audition and he pounded the shit out of them." And Alex and Geddy looked at each other and said, "He's in. He's the one.
That's our guy."
And that's how Neil Peart became the drummer of Rush. And, when Neil Peart became the new drummer of Rush, not only was he a totally awesome drummer, but, he was a very prolific writer too. And he would write all the lyrics for Rush's music. And he just added a whole new dimension of technical ability to Rush, which is just fascinating,
Yeah, man. I totally agree. The lyrics, and I mean, when you listen to these songs, like Bob says, they're real cerebral. They're not talking about drugs, sex, rock and roll. They're talking about life and things that are happening, and situations. And that's one thing, I've always been kind of drawn to band. Now I love the 80s fun bands and stuff like that too. We talk
Hair
about
metal.
Yeah, we talk about those guys, James.
Sure, we do.
And great music, but when it comes to cerebral music, we're talking bands like Rush, Pink Floyd, Dream Theater, some old Genesis stuff that's really weird. And Rush is just in a category of its own, as far as I'm concerned. That's why they have that. I don't know if I would call it a cult following. I guess it's a cult.
You could call it a cult following. It's interesting to me, coming from a musician's perspective, because I know why I like Rush, because they're so technically proficient with their instruments. The stuff they play is unbelievable. It challenges you as a player. Even their simple songs sound simple, and then you sit down to play them, and wait a minute, that's not what I thought it was to begin with.
Right.
But how does I'm not saying a normal music. I'm saying a normal music fan that's not a musician. What is the attraction to the band?
What do you think that is, Bob?
Well, let's see.
Well, I'll help you out, Bob.
Mm-hmm.
I think what it is, James, is that I think they did throw out some songs that 2112, like Bob says, really helped them. For whatever reason, that song caught people's ear. The overture and all that stuff.
Yes.
That whole side one of that album caught people's ear. And I don't know, man. I know they had some hits a little bit later, with Limelight and all that stuff.
Same stuff you still hear on the radio today.
Yeah. I don't know, Bob. What do you think is the difference between their non, they have what you would call quote unquote commercial songs.
Yeah. 2112, it was kind of like what you would call a futuristic progressive rock, like a concept album.
Yeah.
And there's a storyline that goes along with side one that Neil Peart wrote. And then, side two is just a bunch of great rock and roll songs. And then even all the way up to like Clockwork Angels, Neil Peart, he writes kind of like a little storyline that goes along with each song. And Neil Peart, he was a very prolific writer, and he would write songs. He would write the lyrics for each song about true life experiences and things that he would see in the world around him.
He wrote most of the lyrics for the band. Is that correct, Bob? I'd say maybe 75-80% even.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Alex and Getty wrote almost all of the music, and then Neil Peart wrote all the lyrics, and they put it all together, and Getty would sing the lyrics that Neil wrote, and
drummers are pretty deep guys, man. I got to tell you.
Yeah, they are. hey, I'll tell you, my first experience with them was, of course, I'd heard the stuff on the radio, but Moving Pictures was the one for me. And
1983.
I was still I just about to get out of high school, and I actually went to see them at the old Arizona Veterans Memorial Coliseum, and for that album, and it was crazy. And Max Webster, I'm sure some of you people out there know who he is, opened up for him from Canada. You ever heard of Max Webster, Bob?
No, never.
Yeah, he's a fellow Canadian,
mm-hmm.
And couple of great songs. Yeah, couple of great. But anyway, that was my first experience with them. And then I have this thing right here, and Bob corrected me. I thought this was the show I went to, and it was 1988.
That would probably be during the Hold Your Fire tour.
Yeah, look at that. Hold Your Fire.
Yeah, and
what's your favorite Rush album, Ray? What's your favorite Rush album?
My favorite one is, I would probably have to say Moving Pictures, because that's the one that caught my attention the most. And it had all those hits on it. I wouldn't say hits, but they were the radio songs, I guess. I guess they're hits.
Yeah.
And
so
and
it
of course,
has an emotional connection for you too, because
because it was one of the first shows
in the Rush.
Yeah, it was one of the first shows. The first show I went to was Molly Hatchet and Pat Travers. Yes.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Boom, boom. Out go the lights.
And I think Rush was the second one. And just when you're a kid and you go to these shows and you just see the energy and everything, and I was sitting way up high and everything, but just to be there, it's exciting, you know. And then Tom Sawyer comes on, or all these songs, you know, that you know. And
now you guys can answer this question probably, because as I told you before we started off air tonight, I have never seen Rush live, and I'm almost ashamed to say that, especially being a drummer.
Sin, man.
But are they typically a very loud band in concert? You know how some bands have a reputation of being really loud, like the Who, or you're going to go to a Stone show, it's going to be really loud.
Oh yeah, I can definitely remember. I've seen Rush live 7 times here in Phoenix, and every time I've gone to see Rush, they always crank loud. I walk out of a Rush concert and my ears are ringing. Yeah, they definitely.
But it's a clear loud, though, right, Ray? Like kind of like the Dream Theater loud that we talked about there at Mesa Arts Center. It's really loud, and you can really feel it cutting through you. But boy, it is crystal clear.
Well, I will tell you, the quality is great. Now, I will tell you this. When we went, actually, Bob was at this show too. We went to see the R40 tour. And
hey, look at that! Right on cue. We have a video
there,
from that very tour.
You know, this is the beginning of the show.
So you guys were sitting pretty far back then, so you could take the whole thing in there, or.
Yeah. I was up on top. Bob was straight ahead where you see his camera. Though.
Yeah, when I first started making this video, I was sitting way up in the nosebleed seats, and then I noticed the video playing on the Jumbotron screen, and so I just kind of like zeroed in on it and zoomed in. You'll see it here in a minute where I zoomed into it, and I made this little video at the beginning of the show. It's about 7 minutes long.
Hey, now, what year was this show?
2015.
Okay.
Yeah, this was their last one, man, and you know they gave it up after that. Of course, Neil Peart, you know, rest in peace, brother.
Yes, and you said this was the last ever Phoenix show. Is that right, Bob?
Yep, that's the last show I ever saw in Phoenix. Yeah, I'm just glad I got to see this show, knowing that they may never tour again. Yeah, this was definitely one for the books. And here's where I zoom in on the Jumbotron screen.
I mean, imagine the excitement and energy, James, when you see this. Man, you know you're going to hear 2.5, 3 hours of Rush. People are just going crazy.
I just thought, like, this is like history in the making. We may never get another chance to see a show like this.
And how many younger fans were at the show? You know, we go to some of these shows that, you know, these bands were more popular back in the day, and you go and you see guys and gals our age out there, but then you also see some teenagers out there, or maybe, you know, the dad or mom dragged them along. How many younger kids do you see out there discovering older bands?
Thousands. You know, it's amazing to see all this younger generation getting into Rush, you know, and it's music that spans many generations, you know.
I'll tell you what. I'll tell you one thing I loved about this show, James. What they did was they took 40 years of their music. They started the show off with all their newer stuff. Okay,
it sounds like they're playing snippets of songs. Is that what they're doing?
Well, they did at the beginning.
Okay.
Now this is a live song. It's called "The Anarchist." And what they did in this show is, if you notice in this video, they have a bunch of equipment up there. And what they did was they started with their newer stuff, and then they went backwards in time. At the end of the show, all they had on there was like a Marshall amp, a small drum kit, and that was it. And they were playing their first songs that they ever wrote.
Yeah, so almost like they started out in whatever little rehearsal room.
Yeah, they started out with their latest album, Clockwork Angels, and then they progressively were like going back in time, all the way back to the beginning.
Yeah. So at the end of the show, they're playing like Working Man and Finding My Way and stuff like that. Yeah, it was crazy.
Wow.
And it was just a great idea for them to do that, to do it backwards, like, and then no equipment on the stage. obviously the PA was still working great.
Well, you mentioned that they're a thinking man's band, and that is exactly sounds like something that they would do. I like the fact that some of these bands are just coming out and doing stuff that's maybe unorthodox, and like Dream Theater will come out and play a half of a show of Dream Theater, and then come out the second half and play Dark Side of the Moon all the way through, or Bark at the Moon album all the way through, or whatever classic album, and just rip it to shreds.
Right. Yeah, it was a great one, and the sound quality was great. It depends on it depends a lot on the venue, and of course this is a basketball venue, so the sound's not going to be as good as some of these smaller intimate theaters, But
like the video screens, though, it's pretty cool. You can see everything pretty good.
It was good, man.
I remember when I saw the Rush Time Machine tour back in 2011, and on the Time Machine tour, what they did is they played the entire album of Moving Pictures from beginning to end, and I thought that was pretty cool. I saw that tour in 2011.
So would you say that was your favorite Rush concert? You said you saw them 7 times. What is that one show that was it?
Let's see.
Oh, you got to think about that.
I would have to say, I remember when I saw the Clockwork Angels tour back in 2012, and I can remember I was sitting way up in the nosebleed seats, and they opened up the show with Subdivisions from Signals. Mm-hmm. And I remember when they started playing Subdivisions, it was like the first song of set 1. And oh boy, when they started playing Subdivisions, they were cranking. It was loud. I mean, the music just hit me like a ton of lead. I could feel the music. I could feel fantastic. My whole body pulsing from the music. And I thought, man, I'm loving this. I even have a DVD of the Rush Clockwork Angels tour. And I think on that DVD, most of the video footage, the live footage, was made in Dallas, Texas, but I think even some of it was made like here in Phoenix, Arizona.
And where was that?
Clockwork Angels tour, most of it was made in Dallas, Texas.
Well, I mean, where did you see it?
Oh, I think it was at U.S. Airways Center.
Oh, okay, where the Suns play, Yeah, but
for those not tonight.
Yeah, they didn't play tonight, but they showed up, but they didn't play. But
oh man, I tell you that was pitiful. That's another podcast, right?
Yeah. What were you gonna say, Bob?
I mean, every Rush show is I have to say I've never walked out of a Rush concert disappointed. Every show is just like it has its moments, and I can remember when I saw Rush on the R30 tour back in, it was like...
That was 10 years before the 40, man.
Yeah, I think I saw him out at the Cricket Pavilion back in like 2004.
Yeah.
It was a Rush R40 tour, and I remember they were playing Xanadu, and that was one part of the concert that I really loved. And, each show is like unique, and, and all the shows are just great. I've never walked out of a Rush concert disappointed.
I will tell you, on that R40 tour, James, they played everything you've ever heard in the radio. They played it. Spirit of Radio, Limelight, YYZ,
Red Barchetta.
They played all that stuff. It was like what they were doing was saying, "Hey guys, this is the last time we're going to do this, so we're going to put it all."
Hear it all.
Yeah, it was like, I'd say it was close to 3 hours.
Yeah, they definitely went out with a bang.
Yeah, and it was, there was no opening band or anything like that. It was kind of sad, man. It really was, because after you saw what they did, it was kind of like, you know what? I think these guys are done. And then no one knew anything about Neil Peart. I know he had some back problems. And, when you're a drummer or if you're a bass player and you got back problems, you're holding that big, heavy thing, and that's a problem, and I was watching, I almost went to see Steve Hackett the other night.
I was wondering if you were at that show the other night.
I almost went, man. But, I watched some videos of his shows, and he was kind of sitting down and when he knew there was going to be some long parts, he sat down, and he's not a young guy, and he's up there trying to.
But you are, my man. I mean, come on.
Oh,
we're all getting up there, dude.
Yeah. So it's kind of like. Anyway, these guys, man, they gave it all that night, and I know Bob's. I've only seen them probably 3-4 times. I saw him out at Desert Sky or Cricket or whatever. Oh, Bob looks like he ran out of stuff to drink here. I'm gonna have to hook him up. But
running out of beer.
Yeah.
Do we need to take a commercial break, Bob, and make a run to the store?
No, it's in the fridge.
Oh, okay, perfect.
I'll hook him up. But anyway, so I don't know if you got another question or something to ask him. I'll run and hook him up here. But
well, we want to fire away at some of these tunes and give them kind of a name that tune Rush edition. Is that what we're going to do here tonight, Ray?
Yeah, listen, everybody that's listening or watching. He doesn't know what we're putting up here. And I tried to pick some really obscure Rush songs, stuff that I'm not familiar with.
And you picked one off my favorite album, Test for Echo.
You don't say that, man.
I should see there's a tiny little hint. That's all you get, Bob.
Okay, so anyway, what we'll do here is we'll play a little bit of music here, and then he can tell us the name of the song, what album it's on, and if you tell us what year.
Okay.
All right,
Ray, we're going to give you 30 seconds to run to the fridge and get back. Ready, set, go.
Hold. All right, brother.
All right, we are back here on the Rockin Rewind Podcast. Taking one more look at that show. You said this is the R40 tour here before we queue up a couple songs here for Bob to we'll give him what, three or four notes or so maybe on these, Ray?
Yeah. Sorry, everyone. I bribed Bob to come over here and say, "Hey, man, I'll get you some cold ones."
Yeah, that's all right.
That's part of the deal.
I'm just mad you didn't invite me over, but
I know. We could all squeeze in here. We could all squeeze in here.
Imagine trying to get three of us in there.
Yeah, I don't know how it'd be kind of crazy.
That'd be good stuff. All right, so here we go. I'm going to share my screen over here right quick. So, Bob, you're probably going to have to just kind of look away from the screen and look straight at Ray or something, because we got to make sure to be able to hear you.
Look at me.
So make sure you speak into the microphone there, and make sure it's loud enough there where he can hear it, Ray, on your end. You got enough coming through the coming through that Marshall over there, right?
Right.
You're going to play a song, and I got to see if I can identify it?
Yes, I'm going to play a song and give you, and we'll just see how long it takes you to identify it, and I'll have a countdown going here. We'll see how long it takes.
All right, man. He's looking at me. Audio. I'm looking at him. I'm looking at him.
All right, here we go. Let's see. All right, ready, set.
Okay, I know that song is from Rush's first record. I think it's a song called Before and After.
Ding, ding, ding. That is correct. 16 seconds is what that took right there.
Okay, what year was that, Bob?
1974.
1974. Damn.
74, he says. Nicely done.
Dude, I was like 10 years old, man.
That's pretty good. So 16 seconds on that first one. Not bad.
All right.
Not too shabby. All right, so turn away again. Let's do song number 2 right here. Just Just look right at Ray there. Gaze at him longingly, quick.
Oh man!
And we. All right, here's song number 2 in 3, 2, 1.
Nobody's Hero.
Oh my God!
5 seconds, he nails that one.
From the 1993 album Counterparts.
Wow, we'll let a couple more seconds of that play here. Obviously, try not to set off the YouTube police. But,
I like that.
Good one right there. That was pretty quick. I got to give that one to you.
Mm-hmm.
Oh man! All right, so song number 3 here. I love this tune. I love this album. This is when I was not really into Rush like it was some other bands, but when I read Neil Peart's book about he was
wait a minute, you read that?
When he was studying with Freddie Gruber and was trying to reinvent his drumming style and play more, because Freddie would teach him that the drums it's a circular thing. You got to play on top of the kit so that when you want to go over and do some runs, you can do them instead of it's not so much a strike thing as it's more of a rolling pattern. And so anyway, he was totally helping him totally redo his drumming style. And then right after that book came out, this album was a product of that book.
Okay, hold on. Now, when do you know anything about that book, Bob?
No, that's one book I have not read.
Whoa, a sin for Bob, man. Okay, when did that book come out?
Let me see here. It's called Ghost Rider Travels on the Healing Road. It's when he went and rode the motorcycle from all the way across Canada and so forth.
Okay,
I know that book. I have it in my collection.
See, Bob knows what's up.
Yeah, that's really good. That was really good. And so I read that, and then before that, it talked about how he reinvented himself and his playing, and of course that fascinated me as a player myself.
Okay, so this was after his family passed, right?
Yes. Exactly.
Okay. I do remember. And again, guys, I can't stress enough. Man, I wish I could remember the name. I'll put it in the liner notes, but the name of the documentary that talks about all this stuff is fantastic for any musician, really. But okay, go ahead.
All right, let's give it one. I've been meaning to run the scrolls there all night, and I keep forgetting to do it. So here we go, Bob. We're going to add this up. Just look right over at Ray, and we'll see if we can name this one here. Here we go. 3, 2, 1.
Yeah, I know the song from Desperado. Totem Pole by Rush.
Nicely done. 19 seconds. He gets it, folks. 19 seconds.
Okay, what year is that, Bob?
1996.
Yes.
Wow.
I know
that's exactly right.
That was the first time I saw Rush on their 1996 Desperado tour.
Okay.
First time, huh?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right.
Let's see here. And
wow, 19. I thought you had seen them earlier. No, you hadn't seen. Okay,
no, that was the first time I saw Rush on the Desperado.
How old were you on that?
Oh hell, I don't remember.
15, 25. I don't know. 96. I was. Let me see. Dang, I was
probably like 31 back in 1996.
Okay. See, but you probably didn't. That's probably when you started going to shows and stuff.
Yeah, that was like the first concert I ever went to.
Okay. All right.
Okay, one more song here. Let's see if you can get this one. Here we go. 3, 2, 1.
Package like a rebel or a hero. Target mass appeal. Make an audience feel. He really means it.
I know it's from Presto.
Correct.
Let me see if I can name the song here.
Oh, we might have stumped him, man.
Oh,
Oh, we might have. I can't believe this.
do I have to change the title? It says Rush Superfan there on the scroll. Do I have to change that title or what?
So,
I'm kidding.
Superconductor from Rush
That's it.
Presto.
That's it right
All right.
there.
It took me a while. I was struggling with it, but I thought, I know every song on Rush Presto. I know that song is Superconductor.
I didn't give him no hints, man.
No, you did not. You stood fast right there. I got to tell you, that's fantastic.
You didn't look. You didn't look. Well, listen. I think everyone gets the point that the guy knows what's up here, and we could keep going. And now,
Yes. Oh yes.
the idea I got from this is one day we were sitting around listening to music at work, and I said, Bob, what's the name of this song? I just ran through like 10, 15 songs, and he's like, I'm like, dang, man, you know everything. And so that's why I wanted to do this. But before we go, I just wanted to, I don't know, man, these are like, they're
Oh, look at that. Now, what tour is that?
That's from the Clockwork
Oh,
Angels
that's-
tour,
Oh, Clockwork Angels. Okay.
2012. I took those pictures myself.
Now, does that feel like that was 10 years ago?
Oh, no.
That was
Seemed
10
like it was-
years ago.
seemed like it
2012 was 10 years ago already.
Yeah, it seemed like it was just
And-
yesterday.
And sorry,
It
everybody, we didn't scan these, but you know, well, I'm just throwing them up there real quick. What's that one from, Bob?
Oh, I don't remember what song they were playing there.
Do you remember the tour? Same tour?
Yeah, that all these pictures are from the Clockwork Angels tour.
All right, I'm not going to show all these, but he's got a whole slew of pictures here, and of this show, and interesting stuff of things that he's been through. But anyway, Bob, listen, man, we appreciate you coming on tonight. We really do. Is there anything you want to say as far as Rush? And we didn't really talk a whole lot about Neil Peart, except for the fact that I cannot stress enough for people to go watch that documentary. And I'll find the name of it and we'll put it in the liner notes. But it is fantastic. And it's not do you remember the name of it, Bob? It's not Rise of Kings. I thought that's what it was.
Documentary?
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm not 100% sure.
I have it. I actually have
But,
it. I recorded
I know
it.
I have the DVD of Rush Beyond the Lighted Stage, and there are some little segments on that DVD where they talk about, you know, all the personal tragedies that Neil Peart
I
went
think
through
that's the one I'm talking
back
about.
in the late 90s.
Yeah.
And how he lost his wife and daughter.
Yeah, I think that's the one
Neil
I'm talking
Peart,
about.
he took his motorcycle journey all across the
Yeah.
United States and Canada.
Yes,
And,
that's what that book Ghost Rider talks about.
That's what it's
Yeah,
talking about.
I've read the book
That's what it
Ghost
is.
Rider, and you know, in the book he documents how Neil Peart, he spent like 14 months and 55,000 miles on a
Mhm.
motorcycle after losing his wife and his daughter. He just basically
all the way down to South America and all the way to the tip of South America. I think he went.
Yeah, he went all the way down to Belize and Mexico, and it's quite a journey.
Well, you know what else? Another thing that was fascinating to me about him, James, is, you know, he would, when they were touring, he would take his motorcycle and then he would say, "Hey, man, he'd be 100 miles out of town, the next stop, and he'd say, "Drop me off right here," and he'd drive his bike into the next
The rest
show.
of the way in, really?
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
did
Neil
not
would
know
ride,
that.
Neil would ride his motorcycle from one gig to the next, and he had a big tour bus, and he used to keep his motorcycles and bicycles and the trailer and the tour bus. And Neil Peart, he always loved to explore the back roads. I remember a quote that I heard by Neil Peart one time. He said something like, you know, the best roads are the ones that no one travels unless they live there. And that's one thing that Neil Peart used to love to do, is explore the back roads on his motorcycles and his bicycles, and, you know, places where ordinary people don't go.
Yeah.
And then he would write songs about it, and he would write books about it. And it was just fascinating to read some of the books that he wrote.
And he was kind of you know, he didn't like hanging out with fans and stuff. You know, the Neil and Getty are or not Neil, but Alex.
They were more they were more the face of the band,
Right?
And Neil kind of sat in the back seat a little bit, right?
And I had right. And whenever they did meet and greets, Neil wasn't there. It was the other two that were there. You know, they would talk to the fans and whatever. He just wasn't down for that. That was just his personality. It's not that he didn't like people. He just wasn't into that. And that's why a couple episodes back, we talked about Taylor Hawkins. And that's why I was really interested in Taylor Hawkins, because he is one of the few people that actually got close to Neil Peart.
Yes. That's exactly right.
And for someone to do that, man, that shows a lot about that person, that obviously Neil liked him. And anyway, so I guess that's it for tonight, Bob.
You know what else, guys, we haven't talked about in 41 minutes exactly here tonight is possible new Rush music.
Huh?
Did you know that there's possible new Rush music on the horizon? I saw some sort of interview or something with
I did not know that.
Lifeson a couple of weeks ago, and they're kicking it around or something. I don't know who's drumming or what, or if it's just in the writing phase and they haven't figured out who's going to drum yet, or if they're even going to do it, or maybe he's just got some new music and maybe it might turn into Rush stuff one day. I haven't heard, but I didn't know if you guys had heard anything on that.
Hey, you know who would fit in? Have you heard that, Bob?
No, I have not heard a thing about it.
You know who would fit in perfectly as a drummer for them? Who do you think, James? Take a real quick guess.
They would put Portnoy in there.
That's what I was thinking. Portnoy.
That would be outstanding,
man, because he could. I wouldn't say he could fill the shoes, but he could be adequate enough.
Oh, he could fill the shoes and lace them up tightly. Let me tell you.
And Bob, I don't know if Bob's familiar, but Mike Portnoy is the drummer from Dream Theater. The ex-drummer.
No.
Yes.
And he could do the job if they wanted to do it. Now, those guys ain't getting any younger. So
no.
If they're gonna do it, man, I hope they do. That'd be sweet, man. I'm down with that.
Oh, that would be great. Maybe I'd get a chance to finally see him live. I know it wouldn't be obviously with Neil, but 2 out of 3 wouldn't be bad. I would take it.
Yeah. Well, anything else, Bob?
Well, I just want to say over the years, I've learned a lot about, Rush and how the history behind how, John Rutsey was the first drummer of Rush. And then 1975 when Neil Peart became the new drummer of Rush. And on one of the DVDs that I have, I think it was on Beyond the Lighted Stage, where they mentioned where way back in like the early 70s when Neil Peart was like in a garage band, and it was called J.R. Flood. And over the last few weeks, I've kind of been going into YouTube and checking out the music of J.R. Flood a little bit. And it's really quite fascinating to hear a little bit of music that I've never heard before, and to think that way back in 1970, Neil Peart was the drummer of that band. And, in a way, it kind of sounds like pop music that was popular back in the late 60s, early 70s. Kind of sounds like Santana or The Doors or something like that,
Okay. Isn't that cool that you can go back and do that stuff? And then, nowadays, you can tell a younger kid, hey, listen, have you ever heard of so-and-so or whatever? And they say no. And he's, well, look, check this out. And you pull, and 5 seconds later, you're pulling it up for him. Whereas back in the day, it's like, well, if I can find my album, or if I can find the cassette tape, I can let you hear it sometime. But now it's like everything's so on demand, but it's really good stuff.
Yeah. That's go ahead, Bob.
And I like to go on YouTube a lot, and look up old songs that I have not heard in years. And to go onto YouTube and listen to the music of J.R. Flood and, stuff like that. It's like, I've never heard this music before, but, it sounds pretty good for music that was back in the day,
And another question, Bob, have you ever seen an episode of the Rockin Rewind podcast until tonight?
Yeah, I've watched it before.
All right.
Ray used to watch it, and
was Ray plugging it hard at the office? That's what I want to know.
Yeah,
good.
When Ray used to work at UPS with me, and he used to tell me, "Hey, you got to check out my."
Don't
podcast.
tell him where I work.
And so,
I slipped some cash in your lunchbox. Will you check out my podcast?
So I used to go check out the Rockin Rewind podcast, and
excellent.
when you guys used to do like an episode about the band Winger or something like that.
Yeah, that was a tough one to get through the old YouTube police there, Bob. Let me tell you that was
really?
Our first episode, and it came out like a month after we started. So
why did
I was just talking about that.
Did the critics totally hate it or what?
No, it's because they're anything from Atlantic Records, which is now under the Warner Music Group umbrella. It has everything is copyrighted, and then whatever they have, it has super. It sets off the YouTube copyright thing like instantaneously. And so I had to go in and challenge it and say, "Hey, listen, we're doing this to showcase this to the band. We're not making money off the podcast. We're not, you know what I mean? We're not getting any royalties off of it. We're using it to really advertise. You should really be paying us is the deal."
Right. Hey, speaking of Winger, man, I was just, dude, you know what song's been popping in my head from them is it Under One Condition or something like that?
That's from In the Heart of the Young. Yes.
Yeah, man, that song. I don't know why, man. I don't. It's just been going through my head, but it's a good song, man.
Oh, it's a great song, and they have so many good albums. I mean, you know what? They're really cool guys, and I guarantee you, Ray, if we took the time to try to reach out to them, I bet you we could have one of them come on here with us. If whether it be Kip or Reb or whoever.
I think Red Beach would be good.
So you guys have to be very careful about like copyright infringement and stuff like that.
Yeah, well, it's they frown upon you playing people's copyrighted music, which rightfully so, right? But it's kind of funny because the one thing I've never been able to make any sense of is that I can go out and with my band, okay, and go out and play a club. I can go over to Joe's Grotto, which is not there anymore, over in Phoenix, and I can book a gig and say, "Hey, we're going to come out and play tonight for $400, $500, and I'm just going to play cover songs all night," which I didn't write, and they're going to pay me, and that's not an issue. I don't get it.
Yeah.
It sounds like a bunch of red tape and BS.
That's exactly what it sounds like.
Yeah. And all you're doing is,
boy, if I play a Winger song on here, look out, because I'm going to get a copyright strike.
Yeah, and you know what? It's not Winger, man. They don't care.
It's not Winger. It's Warner Music Group.
Because all this, or Rush. If we put a Rush, if we were to play a complete Rush video, we could probably do that.
What label is Rush on, by the way? Are they on Geffen?
No, I don't think so.
Or Atco? What
I
label is Rush?
I thought it was Atlantic. I thought it was Atlantic.
Tell you the truth, but I don't know without doing some checking.
I think they probably, you know what, they've been around for so long, they've probably been on a couple different labels by now.
Yeah, they've been on a few different record labels. I remember back in the 80s when like Rush did moving pictures, I think they were on like Polygram Records.
Okay, Polygram, that's exactly right.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Way back in the day when Rush did their first gig, back in the 70s, Rush played their first gig in a church and they made a whopping $10.
Yeah, they did.
No kidding.
That was before they had the pentagram sign, though.
Yeah. Oh, boy.
And you know what? By the way, people, if you're getting offended by the pentagram, don't trip on that. I mean, I don't know why they did that. It was to they got people. They're not safe
to get it. It was an attention getter.
Yeah, don't worry about that. But anyway, well, listen, man, we've
great stuff tonight, Bob. We appreciate you coming on with us and talking a little Rush. And look, I mean, we went 50 minutes almost, haven't we? Like you said, we could go all night with this.
We could, yeah. But I know you got to, get up and the electric rooster is going to get you up here pretty soon.
Oh, unfortunately, I wish you were kidding. It's about 7.5 hours away at this point.
Yeah. So anyway, well, Bob, I thank you for coming on, man. I appreciate it.
It's a pleasure to be here. I had a blast.
And maybe later on down the road, we can do it again sometime and talk maybe some songs or something like that.
Any other bands that you're a pretty big fan of, Bob?
Oh, I practically grew up listening to bands like, Pink Floyd and I like a lot. I like a lot of different classic rock bands.
Since we're talking Canadian bands tonight, how about April Wine?
Oh yes, I got a lot of April
guys.
Wine records in my collection. Yeah,
well, maybe we'll have to do an April Wine show because that's a really good band that most people have never heard of.
I bet we
like
could
all
talk
kinds
to
of
them.
Canadian bands like April Wine, Triumph, Loverboy, and even a little bit of Bryan Adams too.
Well, you know what? We're going to have a gentleman on with us from another podcast, and he is actually located in Toronto, Canada. We're going to talk with him in the next couple of weeks, and he's a huge Def Leppard fan. Actually, contributes to a Def Leppard podcast as well. So we're going to talk with him and talk about that band. And boy, we could talk hours about those guys as well.
Yeah. Well, I'm looking forward to that. I got some questions to ask that guy.
It's going to be fun. The best part of this is we just hang out and talk rock and roll, talk music.
That's exactly right, man. That's exactly right.
Thank you again, Bob. We appreciate everyone tuning in. We hope you enjoyed this episode. Like we said, stay tuned. We're going to have the great Danny Zelisko joining us whenever I get a chance to finally reach out and get him scheduled to come on here with us and talk about some outstanding concert history here in Phoenix. And then we mentioned as well the gentleman from the Def Leppard podcast. He also runs a podcast called My Rock and Roll Heaven. So he's going to come on here with us and talk about some really good stuff. So we're looking forward to it. Thanks everyone for tuning in. And
one more thing, I got the next time we get on here, we got Yngwie Malmsteen coming up here in Phoenix, which I'm going to go to, and a couple other things that are happening, and music news and notes coming up next time. So you guys make sure you tune back in.
Absolutely. Thanks for joining us. Have a great night, and we will see you all soon.
See ya.
Bye.